Okay, so this video is all about what law school is like. If you're watching it, I can assume that you are a member of a class of people interested in what a deep structuralist would call the subject auxiliary inversion of that statement, which is to say, in answering the question, what is law school like? You'll find that law students are deeply concerned with assumptions and structure, but for the most part not with Chomsky and linguistics, although I'm certainly an exception to that. Anyway, if you're in the class of people interested in what law school is like, then you're more than likely to be in one of the following subclasses too. We'll start with those thinking about law school. You either A, have a degree and did something else for a while, be it a year or 10, and have decided that whatever the other thing is, it's not as compelling as what you've heard about law school, and or you're a masochist, hoping to join the ranks of stressed out overachievers competing for their careers for the sheer joy of it. Or B, you don't have a degree yet and are trying to decide what to do after you earn the one you're working on because the economy sucks and your BA in linguistics won't be competitive at Starbucks, where the expectation is that your thesis and or dissertation was written in a humanity rather than a social science. You may actually be a little further along already and one of those people anxiously anticipating law school. Regardless of whether or not you've earned your undergraduate degree, you want to know what people in a later phase of your game are experiencing. This curiosity can be extrapolated to imply either nervousness about joining the ranks of stressed out overachievers competing for the careers mentioned before, or that you're gearing up to be a gunner, but we'll talk about them later. The third category is, of course, people in law school already, and since it doesn't follow that you want to know what law school is like per se, since presumably you attend school, although we can argue about whether that is sufficient or merely necessary to achieve the status of law student, which, by the way, is something else law students are deeply concerned with. Definitions, necessity, and sufficiency, not attendance. The only readily apparent conclusion is that you are either A, slacking off studying and either searching for peripherally related videos out of guilt or looking for some sympathy, or B, that would be a good question for office hours, actually. If you're not one of these people, then maybe you know someone in law school and are trying to understand why it is that person is transformed into a grouchy know-it-all or is exhibiting some other uncharacteristic behavior. Or B, you don't know anyone in law school and you are some rando on the internet. It's okay, we're all that guy sometimes. Maybe you're thinking that I've so far told you nothing about people in law school, only about people interested in law school. And if you are, you're also thinking, hey, this is not what it purported to be. Well, unlike in law school where professors often hide the proverbial ball and make students discern the answers for themselves, I'll tell you. We used to be one of you, and now we're members of a law school class somewhere, which brings us to our second topic. Class may not be where we spend most of our time, but it certainly is the focus because it's where we interact with subtopic 1 professors. In general, these walking encyclopedias cum deities are either cold callers, espousing the traditional and terrifying Socratic method wherein students are randomly chosen to answer often unanswerable questions about legal minutiae regarding which they have read somewhere in the ballpark of 20 pages by a person who probably wrote their dissertation on the topic, and is teaching it because they, too, were turned down by Starbucks. Well, okay, I concede it may have been Starbucks corporate. I got distracted. Let's go to sub 1b, the friendly types, who try to encourage discussion in some other way, bringing us to subtopic 2a, the gunners mentioned earlier, who probably won all their high school debate tournaments or are bitter about the ones they lost and are itching to prove that they're smart and on top of not only their game, but the professors as well. These people will talk and argue and ask questions in almost every class period, and since we travel in sections, the sound of their voices becomes excruciatingly familiar, especially if you have a number of subtopic 1b professors who will quickly grow tired of encouraging subtopic 2a to shut up and coaxing 2b to talk. These strong and silent types, by the way, are complete wild cards because you have no idea whether they're absorbing it all and will ace your curved exam, or are applying to jobs online because they hate law school. Maybe Starbucks is hiring. But that's only 15 to 20 hours of what is likely a 60 to 70 hour work week. Most of life in law school is something like this video, which is to say spent outlining alone at your desk and muttering at your computer drinking your third cup of coffee from Starbucks. Your workstation will probably look something like this, only with a note-taking program open like this. Oh, and probably a textbook. Actually, let's talk about textbooks. This is going to hit you a little like UCC 2207. It's one of those subpoints that looks like it will be just an hour or two of lecture, but turns out to be crippling. Last semester, my first semester, I had contracts which had a supplement, torts, and property, in addition to legal writing and research, which had a textbook provided by my university, in addition to the infamous and omnipresent blue book you see here. Canned supplements a given student might consult are here represented by flashcards and my copy of Black's Law Dictionary. This coming semester I will take civil procedure, criminal law, constitutional law, and federal income tax, and again with the flashcards. Each of these books weighs about 5 pounds and must be carried with you to class every day, along with your laptop and anything else you might need. Like, say, a sealable mug from Starbucks that lets you save some negligible amount of money every time you remember to bring it, which will be every day. Incidentally, this is also how you will acquire lightning-fast speech, which would be unintelligible had you not the knowledge that voicing intervocalic consonants is faster than not doing it, but is still comprehensible, for example. And in that, you will also come to realize that majoring in linguistics wasn't completely useless after all, because the system of estates is really just syntax. But I digress. Your bag will be a minimum of 25 pounds, most of which consists of size 10 font on what amounts to Bible paper, and you will read all of it. Then you will rewrite it in chunks of smaller words, that's what's called a brief as per subtopic 2, or be asked to extrapolate the analysis, since now you know you're so good at that, to new facts, and that's what's called memoranda. By the time you realize you're panicking, you will also realize that this is how you spend most of your life. Finally, there are final exams where you will review everything you learned in the current semester in a week, and then in about 4 hours you will have to apply as much of it as is relevant to a set of wildly improbable facts as you can. The memoranda writing and the time and money spent at Starbucks and the speed at which you have become able to produce words will come in handy, since the difference between an A and a C has little to do with how well you know the law, and everything to do with your ability to spot problems, and since your life amounts to little more than a series of problems that look more or less like a phonology set, wherein the only pattern is that your grade becomes a C between a voiceless labial dental fricative followed by a closed mid-central vowel and a voiceless feeler stop, you should be golden. except that by definition you're fucked. So when they call time, you'll close your laptop and run to the nearest reservation to study a dying Native American language, since A, some university may sponsor you or the government will forgive some of your law school debt for all the pro bono work, and B, it'll probably make more sense than legalese, and C, at long last, Starbucks will hire you to help with brand localization. Then suddenly your winter break will be over and you'll have to go back to school for another semester. One down, five to go.